Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do to the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse through Skrullos in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance
Assemble.
Assemble, Volume 172. As I kind of just tweeted out with the live show link, it's one of those rare weeks where a single photo dominates everything that's going on in the Marvel Universe.
There were trailers that came out this week that I did not see get as much attention as this one photo.
Yes.
Like full-on trailers. And I don't mean random little projects nobody's heard of, but I mean named properties that I did not see get as much attention as this one photo.
Yeah, so we will get to that photo after, and the probably many set photos that we'll look at as after we go over episode 4 of Secret Invasion. Brent, how you doing this week?
Good. Want to give a thanks to Travis for coming back and holding it down last week for me. I got to play listener again. It's always fun for me, but I was on family vacation, and I guess heads up, I'll be gone again next week, but that time it's for work, not for it's business, not pleasure. But it's been a good week. I'm still the latest thing with me, and I'm not getting into it here, is still trying to get my car back basically after the accident 2 months ago, just over 2 months ago. Let's just say they're having problems fixing it, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, hey, we all remember my little car issue of hitting a coyote at that point, and you've been going on how many months without a car?
Just over 2.
Just over 2. So you win. You still beat me by a whole month.
It's not a contest that I want to win, just to be clear. And of course, my mom's like, well, when your dad's windshield was messed up, that took like 3 months. Yeah, great. He can be the winner. I don't want to win this game.
It's not, like you said, it's not something you want to win. But all right, well, let us get into the network notes and everything like that before we get into episode 4 and all the news that broke this week. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our $1 tier to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows, including our show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance MCU Rewatch. We have 18 episodes up there right now, so patrons, we hope you're enjoying that. And Brent and I just recorded episode 19, which will be what, Brent?
We've come to bargain. So if you don't know, you don't know, but we've come to bargain.
We've come to bargain, yes. Doctor Strange, the original, we will be dropping in a couple of weeks for our patrons, but patrons, hope you're enjoying the DC Alliance guys doing their DC Through the Years. Joe looking at old summer movies at that point, a lot of back content. So we want to thank you. We cannot do this without your support. And if you want to become a patron of the GUA Network, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network to get all that lovely content. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. If you want to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last, but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. You got about 6 more days to lock in your pre-orders of some of these lovely collected editions, including the Ben Reilly Omnibus Volume 2 reprint. You've got Thor by JMS and Gillen Omnibus for the first time coming into print. Rom is back coming into print at that point, so a lot of great content. Devil's Reign Omnibus, looking at that as well. So use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. And you could use it a limited amount of times. We want to thank them for being our official sponsor.
Should use it to get that Ben Reilly collection, because that's better than the last story that Ben Reilly was a part of. I finally finished Dark Web. It was not good.
That you're being too kind. Being absolutely too kind.
It's not good. It's not good. I can't recommend it to anybody.
No, and it goes. It's not as bad as the story that shall not be named at that point, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, I mean, it's considering it bastardized one of my favorite Spider characters, it's at least not. It's still not as offensive as that other one.
Yeah. So, but all right. So as summer time comes, we've made some shifts in recording. We're gonna make another shift in recording next week. Brent is getting ready to go out of town,
Yep.
and on our usual recording day, I'm going out of town. And if all things being equal, for the final episode, I will be recording remotely for the very first time, not in my hometown. So we're gonna see how that works out. But
It's not that bad. I did it for the first episode of Loki. It's not that bad.
it's one of those I got to see exactly where I'm going to be setting up in my family, in my relative's place. So we'll just see what happens with that. But
We'll make it
next week we'll be going a day early, live next Wednesday at same time, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. Travis Hines will be joining me, as Brent will be indisposed and will not be able to record for the penultimate episode of Secret Invasion. The audio will still drop live on Friday morning at that point, but if you want to tune in Wednesday night, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time, right after Star Wars Alliance, we will be there, and I hope you can join us. I do want to give it also a quick plug. This Saturday afternoon, if you want to check out OmniDog's Vault on YouTube, he's a good friend of mine, Jess. He runs a kind of a big collected editions channel. He's invited me on to join his Saturday Q&A, and that'll take place at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday. Just look up OmniDog's Vault and tune in, join in the fun conversations that we're going to be having. So, all right. I think that's about it, Brent, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's all the notes that we had to get. Let's talk some Secret Invasion.
All right, Secret Invasion episode 4, entitled Beloved. What were some of your non-spoiler thoughts, Brent?
So, and this is really true for this week and last week's episode. Again, they continued to do like the Brian Michael Bendis talking head style stuff. Like the action scenes are there. There are action scenes in this show, but frankly, they're nothing special. They're nothing that memorable. It's the dialogue. It's the debates, the arguments, the conversations. That is the stuff that is drawing me into these shows. I am hitting a criticism now with this episode that people have already kind of pointed out a couple times. It's something to do with how last week's episode ended. I'd like to touch on, but I want to get over the spoiler wall for that. But in general, I'm still really enjoying the show. If they maintain this quality going out, am I going to say this is the top, the best of the best Marvel show? No, I'm not. But it's a good one that I enjoy, and I'm absolutely happy that they've done it so far.
Yeah, this one kind of ranks a little bit lower for me. It may be more towards the bottom of this one. Not saying I didn't enjoy a good action sequence. It has nothing to do necessarily with as our time-wise, our lowest number of the runtime at that point, because again, you and me have always said, as long it doesn't matter necessarily about time, but if it gives it the time you need in order to do a good episode at that point. But it just seemed, could have been a little bit more there. I'm a little bit wondering, with 2 episodes left, we kind of leave on a kind of a big cliffhanger, as it were. I'm wondering exactly kind of, are we going to have enough time to get everything done?
That are we going to have enough time is it realistically, it is a question that has come up for maybe every single one of these Marvel shows. Now that I think about it, I'm trying to think if there's one where we felt like there wasn't enough time. Maybe Loki, but by the time we were going into the finale of Loki, the rumors of a season 2 they weren't official yet, but they were pretty hot and heavy, so people kind of had that in the back of their mind. But everything else, it does seem like that is a common critique of the shows: is there enough time? We'll see how they do. Sometimes they pulled it off better than others, but we'll see how they do with this one. I feel like there is enough time, but the show is never going to be as big as people wanted it. I still am seeing this should have been a movie. The Avengers should have been there. I'm like, it's still a fun, I mean, maybe not fun is the right word, but an entertaining, compelling espionage story about Nick Fury.
Oh yeah.
And the bones of Secret Invasion, the comic series, are still there. Skrulls have infiltrated and are trying to take over. The bones are still there, but it's obviously a different take on the Secret Invasion than what the comics had. I'm just watching it and enjoying it for what it is instead of complaining it's not something else from the comic books.
Oh yeah, and again, we knew completely going into this that there was gonna be it was just not going to be the huge event that you and I had just finished up for a comic book club at that point.
Right.
It couldn't be, and there's just only so much that can be done with this. And again, so far I'm still enjoying it and looking forward to kind of seeing exactly, hopefully, fingers crossed, that they are going to stick the landing. So, all right. Well, if you have not finished watching Secret Invasion episode 4, pause right here and watch it and then come back. So, we're going to get into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. All right. So, we open the episode right where we left off with Gaia being shot by Gravik, and it's revealed that prior to her escaping, she basically, so I'm going to pull a little Star Trek in there, she mind melded with the captured scientist to understand how to become a Super Skrull, uses one of the DNA sequences with the machine and steps into the reactor to imbibe her with her selected power. She jumps out of into the machine, and we see as the flashback concludes that she's being healed because now she has the powers of Extremis. What did you think about that, knowing that, I don't think either one of us were surprised she was coming back, but the question is how? How did you feel about this kind of revelation, is that she now has Extremis?
I want to take one step back till the end of last week when she is supposedly killed, right? And
Mm-hmm.
effectively was killed. Extremis can bring you back. We've seen that. They've established that. That's fine. I agree with the criticisms that they really, really like to kill somebody at the end of these episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've now, we're 4 episodes in and they've done it for 3 of them. They've done it for 3 of them. The one that didn't have a death at the end of the episode was the bomb that Fury had been married. I kind of wish that they had not. I'm fine with how she came back. She got Extremis. That's cool. That's good stuff. I'm glad to see that Gravik's not the only one doing it, because somebody's going to have to stand up to him. And right now, I don't see how it could be Fury. Realistically, I don't see how he could physically go toe to toe with Gravik. But guys, she could, and now she has a little bit of extra motivation with what happened at the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish they had just put that scene back in last week's episode, either as a credit scene or just Gravik drives off. And then we see, the flashback. She gets Extremis. She comes back. Like, it seems like it was so obvious she was going to come back. Like, I just felt like it's a slam dunk. We're going to see her, and I would have bet money the show was going to open that way. Not with the Extremis, but open with her and how she survived, basically. I wish they had done it at the end of last week's episode, because then it would at least be a little bit different. We wouldn't have 3 episodes out of 4 where they killed somebody to end the episode.
Yeah, it definitely just didn't ring really as much, just because it just seemed like, again, we saw the trailers, we knew she was going to be coming back, and it just, like, it's our fault, being that we run a show like this, that we kind of got this quote unquote spoiled for us. But it just seemed like, yeah, this is not the type of show just to write off a character like Emilia Clarke like that really quickly, in that way. And it just, I don't know, like, some people joke like, oh, well, we're just waiting for Maria Hill to kind of suddenly come back, a la Fury in Winter Soldier at that point. And it's I don't know what's going to be what would be worse, seeing Maria Hill come back, or just finding out, because I'm pretty confident we're going to find out how long our Rhodey Skrull has been a Skrull in the MCU very quickly at that point. So
let me push back on something you said.
Mm-hmm.
You said it's our fault because we do this show. To be clear, we weren't looking at set photos. We weren't looking at spy photos, at paparazzi photos. We were looking at official marketing. So no, it's not our fault. It's, if anything, it's their fault for putting it in the trailers. Fair. That they do that. And maybe the difference is we are more likely to watch these trailers multiple times versus your average viewer. But regardless, it's not like we were looking at set photos even, like, it was official marketing we were looked at. No, it was pretty clear she was going to die. I don't remember anything in the trailers of Maria Hill that we haven't already seen. Maybe there's something, and frankly, I'm not going back to look at this point. But there was stuff of Gaia, and I know there were all the speculation. Maybe she's actually Abigail Brand or someone else. Like, so it'll still be Emilia Clarke, but a different character. Clearly, that's not the case. I think that's more of an issue with what they choose to reveal in trailers.
No, I will agree with you on that. I will rescind my prior comment on that.
That's right. It's their fault.
I will not take ownership of this. It's their fault for doing it. No, absolutely not. So thank you for trying to save face on that one. It was interesting, just kind of seeing it happen. But again, it is what it is at that point. That's how they're going to do it. Okay, let's kind of move on from that. So we get a really big jump in flashback. We jump to 2012 in Paris, right after the Avengers win the Battle of New York. We kind of see that in the paper that's being read at that point, and Fury is meeting up in his lovely spy garb at that point, blending in really well into
his costume. Yeah, like it's his basic uniform. It stands out.
Yeah. He's not necessarily trying to get, or does he care at that point? So he's meeting up with Priscilla and or Vara. And Vara and Fury talk a bit about how he was responsible for the team forming. She's very proud of him for doing that and kind of taking what he's learned from them over the last couple of years and taking responsibility for, the livelihood of the world at that point. Mm-hmm. And then they have a discussion on the poet, what she's reading, and she's reading a book of poems from Raymond Carver, who actually helped revitalize the American short stories during the 1980s. And as Vara says, his poems are short with a punchline. They discuss the poem Late Fragment, centering around a couple talking to each other, and this poem has a lot of meaning when we look at the author himself. It says, the poem goes, "And did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so, I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on earth." Mm-hmm. Now, this was actually the final poem he wrote before his death, and he asked himself if he has fulfilled his ultimate goal in life, and that is to be beloved, and he's answering that he was. He died at age 50, and this has been seen as the author still finding he lived a full life, even though it was cut short. He did pass away from lung cancer, and the poem, this actual poem, is inscribed on his gravesite. And it gives insight to the poet facing his final days, and he felt at peace and fulfilled. And when Fury and Vara are having this conversation, Fury and Vara touch hands, and after reading it and looking like, Fury's finally allowing himself to let his guard down and basically fall in love. So it's kind of a sweet moment. We don't see much of that with Nick.
Right. It was a great moment, a sweet moment between these two characters, and I think the highlight of these two conversing happened later in the episode, but regardless, it was nice, and it's just so interesting to think about what Nick Fury did right after the Avengers. Yeah. It's like the Avengers ends, Thor takes Loki, the Science Bros drive off and everything. He tells Maria, they'll come back when we need them to. And he goes off to his woman. It's just they didn't tell you that part.
You know what? Can you blame him?
Absolutely not.
He had a heck of a week.
I mean, Fury's big week. No, yeah. Not the same.
Not the same. But anyways, so so we cut to the present day with Vara sitting in a church waiting and watching as a choir sings a song called Deep River. The song Deep River is about the hope that peace and freedom will one day be felt. It's something that's been adopted by many groups facing persecution and the lack of freedom, and of course represents the Skrulls and what they've been trying to battle and feel for. However, the Skrulls are very willing to kill whoever they can in order to get what they want, and that includes Fury. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we see a figure walk in and sit down and say, "Boom! You looking for this?"
He's looking for this.
And it is Skrull Rhodey. Scrody, as we...
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's fine. It is Scrody. Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, we can already see the hashtag going around like that. Walks in and talks to Vara, and he tells her basically as a conversation that he's the one that he kind of plays dumb and saying, "What? Fury was fired? That's interesting." And oh yeah, I fired Fury. I did that. I DDT'd his. I was like freaking DDT'd him from the top rope. I was like freaking Undertaker. And I'm not the only one who caught this. Even though I'm kind of out of the wrestling scene at that point, I do remember when I was big into wrestling, and Travis Snell called this out, and a few others called it out that are big into wrestling. At no point in Undertaker's entire career did he ever DDT someone from the top rope. The guy is 7 foot tall.
I did not know that until I heard people calling it out.
Yeah.
There was like one brief year or 8-month period or whatever where I watched wrestling on kind of a regular basis, and it was back when I was like 14, 15 years old. So it's been, it's been a couple years. I'm a little older than that now. I've heard the phrase DDT, but I'm like, I don't even remember what it looks like. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, guys. It's the truth.
Yeah, not saying that Undertaker did do DDTs, just not from the top rope. Julio in the chat, wonder what will happen to the current president and how that will lead to Thunderbolts. Oh, we'll talk about that.
We'll get there.
We will get there. We will totally get there. As I need to clear the banners. All right. Kevin Feige was speaking to Marvel.com after the episode dropped at that point and wondering, answering the question, when did they start having this conversation about, Rhodey, as played by Don Cheadle, was going to be a Skrull? And he said, we've been pitching this to him in the very early days. When we have amazing actors like Don that have been used for us for so many years, we very much treat them as partners in the creative collaboration. It was very early on when we pitched the concept to Don, and he very much was into it as being able to play with different sides of Rhodey that we haven't seen before. While Feige didn't exactly reveal how long the character has been in disguise, the Marvel boss teased that fans will come to understand exactly how long he's been a Skrull before hinting that Cheadle's Rhodes has been a Skrull in some of his previous MCU appearances.
Yeah, so, I mean, he has not been seen since Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right?
Correct.
And I'm with the people who are like, that kind of retroactively cheapens that scene, that conversation he had with Sam, if he is revealed to have been a Skrull, if Scrody was in play during Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
You're so gonna try to make this a thing.
Oh, it's a thing for the next 2 weeks. I expect you guys to keep it rolling.
Yes, yeah, we will do with Scrody at that point. So, Fury is actually listening into the entire conversation, and Vara is trying to tell Scrody that she's telling him he's not worth killing. He's not himself. He hasn't been. Oh, have we heard this? Yeah, he's a little out of step. He's not the same since he's been back from the blip. He's a shadow of his former self. I don't know. I think we've heard this a couple of times.
Yeah, once or twice. Once or twice they've let us know.
So what did you think about this kind of back and forth that Scrody and Vara have?
It was interesting to me to see her kind of sort of half-assed trying to stand up to him. She pushed back a little bit, but like while doing it, it's like she's just slamming him, talking about how basically impotent Fury is at this point. And he's just like listening to all of this, and it's his wife just trashing him, right? Like I felt bad for him to have to hear this, even if he thought like came to the same conclusion, like she's really just trying to talk Scrody out of these orders to kill him. But when she finally says like we don't have to kill him, and he stands up and just looks at her, says her name, and walks off, it's like you still have to. You have your orders.
Yeah. Well, he basically says like it's your choice. It's either going to be him or someone else. Whoever's in the house is going to basically be dead tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So we cut to Gravik and Pagan on the airfield, and Gravik tells him that Gaia was the mole, and he tells Pagan to make the attack they're about to do big because that's what the Russians would do. So this is kind of hinting at exactly what's going to be happening later on in it. Now, in the comics, Pagan, who's played by Killian Scott, was one of the first girls to infiltrate the Avengers by appearing as Elektra. And he had taken the new form of a Skrull programming, which involved taking the memories and DNA of their target, which they've obviously adapted for this show.
Sure.
in the past, telepaths and characters like Wolverine could send Skrulls out by either reading their minds or the fact of smell different. He even managed to bypass Spider-Man's Spidey sense, and it was on a mission to find Echo that the cover was blown, which we have already covered on this show. So I forgot to bring that up earlier when Pagan was introduced in the first episode of the series. From here, we join Talos and Gaia meeting on a bench, and with him showing remorse about basically, quote unquote, drafting her into this war. And whether he likes to admit it or not, he was he was the one who co-signed Fury that brought the Skrulls to this planet and ended up acting as spies for him. He obviously couldn't tell the future, but still, the people and their abilities have been weaponized in the surveillance that he's been carrying out. And he regrets Gaia forcing into this, but she says she did it of her own free will because, again, she doubted her father. She felt her father was, defending Fury left and right and not having anything and basically selling out her people. And it's only due to the death of her mother that she now wants to be closer to her dad, but she needs him to have a counter plan to rally everyone against Gravik. And this is his plan. Oh, we'll stop the invasion, and then we're going to go to the President of the United States and say, hey, we did this. Now give us amnesty. And guys kind of like Fury responded when Talos said, oh, we can live in harmony with everyone. And he said, are you out of your ever-loving lizard mind at that point? That's basically what Gaia says to him. It's like, are you that naive that the president is just going to say, hey, we all solved the secret invasion for you. Hey, we just want to, chill here. A million of us Skrulls at that point. And she kind of calls them out saying, wait a minute, don't you ever want to just not be in the human form? And he really gives a really half-hearted answer, and she gets so frustrated with him, as I can understand, and she just walks away.
Yeah, naive is the exact right word. I mean, think about what Fury said in episode 2. It's like the human race can't even coexist with each other, let alone aliens. It doesn't matter that how they see these aliens. And let's say, just real quick, hypothetically, Taylor survived the end of this episode. President Riston is still not going to accept him, even though he was integral in saving him. No, absolutely not. They are not going to do that.
No, absolutely not at that point. It's just not in the cards. And like I said, she walks away and just in utter disgust. So we cut to Vara returning home. Actually, we're going to take our first ad break before we get into this because this is going to be probably a pretty longer discussion. So, listeners, as you know, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So as I said, we cut back to Vara, Priscilla coming back home. And you got to notice, I caught this definitely the first time I saw it, and the second time, the masks on the wall, the different drama masks at that point. So that's there for a reason, and the different masks that the Skrulls can take in order to portray that. So that's very symbolic there. She sees Nick's wedding ring in the bowl, and she hears him in the kitchen, and she questions why he forgot to put the ring on, and he claimed that he came in through the back door. However, we know why he's really not wearing the ring.
Yeah, he didn't go in through the back door. He doesn't go in that way. No, he doesn't trust her. I almost wonder, though, if he should have put it on to try and keep her suspecting that everything is normal a little bit longer, just to give him a little bit more time to kind of feel her out.
Yeah. So they sit down, and he serves her tea, and he tells her that he knows she's been ordered to kill him, but he still doesn't know if he changed his mind about anything in their life and their love. It's kind of a little bit of a Romeo and kind of Juliet thing. It's a forbidden love. And Vara divulges, when Fury asks her, it's like, how did you come about choosing this face, choosing this look? And she divulges that she met a doctor by the name of Priscilla and became friends with her, and through their conversations found out that she had basically a terminal heart condition that she didn't let anyone know, including her family. And, understanding that her time was short and knowing maybe, quote unquote, learning Fury's type, knowing that the doctor pretty soon was going to die, she had a conversation basically revealing who she was, and that she, with her permission, would like to take on her face and, in order to have the man that she's falling in love with fall in love with her back. And the doctor said, I will agree to that as long as you agree to 3 things. 1, I want to be buried at sea.
Which she did.
Yep. She wanted her to continue being a daughter to her parents.
Which she also did.
Yep. And do not hurt Fury, which she has now.
TBD.
I think he's been hurt by this one, very much so.
Right, and so it's all a question. She didn't shoot him. She didn't shoot him.
She basically called him weak and worthless to Scrody. So.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some emotional damage going on for sure. You're right about that.
Yeah. So, and so they Vara. Actually, I can't. No, it's Fury that remembers the late fragment poem, and they both.
He brought it up first,
and they both do the poem back and forth to each other. They put their guns on the table, and they both point the guns at each other. And it cuts back. We hear the guns go off, and find that they both didn't shoot. Basically, purposely missed.
And they show you her first.
Yes.
To leave you just a half second longer to be like, did they really kill the lead of the show in the 4th episode out of 6? No, they didn't. No.
Now, I caught this on a second viewing. We actually see when we see one of the gunshots, I can't remember who, we actually see a cover of a book that Vara, as Priscilla, wrote called Decoding the Superhuman Gene. So she has really gone into and fell into the role of the doctor at that point, continuing kind of her kind of study of the stuff. Even though she's a heart surgeon.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, check that out. And so Fury makes a joke saying, I don't know whether to renew our vows or divorce you with this.
Right. And, she asked him, like, do you think you would have loved me in my natural form? And he starts to leave, turns around and says, I guess we'll never know, and walks out. Do you think we will see her again in this series?
Yes, I do. 100%.
100%.
We will see Priscilla/Vara again.
Okay. I've wondered. I was like, man, that'd be pretty cold if he just walked out and never talked to her again. Granted, she's used to him just disappearing on her, of course.
Yeah, and, I think that is the most appropriate line to say at that moment. I would not believe it for a minute at that point. All of a sudden, Fury saying, yes, I'd love you forever. That's not Nick Fury. That's not this Nick Fury either. Because he hadn't ever shown us that in meeting outside of like the initial meeting of Vara, when we saw, not meeting of Vara, but when we first meet Vara in the past, when she introduced him to Gravik, and they had that kind of head, but she did the same kind of head bob movement that put their heads together like he did with Talos. That's the only kind of quote unquote friendliness they've shown with her in Skrull form.
True. Yeah. Good point.
So I thought it was very appropriate, left it very much up in the air whether they're going to continue to be together or not, but Fury's going to do what Fury's got to do. So we cut to a female Skrull in a shower, someone we haven't seen before, and she wraps herself in a towel, mirrors down, and that's as she wipes away the fog, the condensation, we see her turn into Scrody.
Yep.
So... I find it interesting. This is the first time that we've seen in this series a female Skrull portraying a male human being at that point. It doesn't say that all females can only portray females. We just haven't seen it in the show at this point.
Right. And if anybody is going to be able to basically transition between the two, it's going to be the shape-shifting alien race.
Exactly. So he comes out of the bathroom and sees Nick there waiting for him, and he's not happy about it. I mean, who would be?
I mean... It's not necessarily who you want to see like that unexpected. Nothing good ever happens when Nick Fury pops up in your home unannounced.
No, it does not. So Nick wanted to bury the hatchet with him because he felt they left things not on great terms after the firing, and he brings him a nice bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, which is 23 years aged. In American dollars, that a 23-year-old age Pappy Van Winkle will run you at least a little over $5,000 at least.
That is a bit more than I would be willing to pay.
Exactly. And I unfortunately have not had the ability, not necessarily to purchase it nor to have it, but someone offers me it, you darn right I'm going to take it.
There you go. Yeah.
uh,
Should I drink this? Pour this? Get it? No, I'm
yeah,
drinking it. I'm
yeah,
taking it.
exactly. To share with him, he's suspicious of it at first, thinking that he's poured the drink, poisoned it with his drink with poison. To which Fury says, "You can go ahead and pour that out, but that little glass there is so expensive that your ancestors are going to come back from the grave and whoop your butt for doing it." Um, Now, what makes it so good is that it's aged longer than most bourbons, and the distillery that produces it does very limited quantities. And so it's actually pretty darn difficult to get your hands on it. Just you're not going to go to your local liquor shop and get that
Sure.
as much. Um, Fury plays up the race card, kind of like Scrody did to him in a couple of episodes ago, and that they should have each other's back. And he tells Rhodey that there are Skrulls in the U.S. government, and Rhodey kind of smirks at this too. I caught that the first time, and he tells him that he'll keep his secret if he just gets his job back with Sword and Saber. And that's when Scrody gets up and shows him the footage of Gravik killing Hill, and Fury says, "You know that's not me." He says, "Yeah, but good luck when you go on trial using it's actually the one-eyed alien that did it and not me."
Right.
And he says, I just need you to go away permanently, and you'll never see this. Will never make the light of day. On top of all the other copies I've made, will never see the light of day."
Yeah, and it's kind of hard. It's not like he can even prove it's a doctored video or something like that because it's not doctored. The video is not. But at the time, he did have access to at least one scroll with Talos. So it's like in theory, he's just like, well, I can just prove that shapeshifters exist if he doesn't already have a different way to prove that, which he probably does. So
Now,
I mean, I don't think it's the smoking gun. I mean, well, it quite literally is a smoking gun, but you know what I mean. I don't think it's the impossible scenario that he can't get out of. That
no, you're
Gravik would
right.
have, or that's I'm sorry, Scrody would have him believe.
Now, a question for you is: do you think that Scrody knows that Nick knows that's not the real Rhodey? I don't think that.
Does Scrody know that Nick knows that Scrody is Scrody?
Yeah.
I don't. I don't think he knows that yet because if he does, I don't really think he would have let him go.
Correct.
And
I agree.
it is a little confusing because if he's sending Yara out to kill Fury, why doesn't he just do it right then and there? Claim he was attacked, and then if he kills Fury, he claims self-defense, and he can show this video of allegedly Fury turning on Maria Hill as supporting evidence that he was snapping on people. Like, I don't really understand, other than plot armor, I don't really understand why he would let him go in this scenario. Maybe there is something else that Gravik wants out of Fury, but then why have Yara kill him to begin with? Unless they think, they're playing like the long con and they don't think that she actually would go through with it, but that it would mess with his head some. I don't know. It just, to me, it's not a plot hole. It's absolutely not a plot hole. People misuse that. It just seems a little inconsistent with what we so far know their motivations to be.
Exactly. So, Fury walks out and he meets Talos out in the car, and it's revealed that the bottle was laced with something. It was a liquid tracking device in order for them to follow Scrody.
Gotta love that nanotech. He told him it's in there. He told him it is.
Yeah, talk about how this interaction when POTUS arrives, Ritson arrives, and the conversation that he has with Rhodey.
Scrody must have finished that bottle of Pabst because apparently he just reeked of booze and alcohol, and his breath smelled horrible. And Ritson's like, "You always pregame before these big kind of meetings and stuff like that."
I love that statement. Did you pregame like that?
Scrody just says, "Give me a mint." Like, I think it sounds like you need more than that.
Yeah, exactly. If you've especially like smelling like that and it's coming off you like that, that's you've had a few too many at that point, and definitely brings up the idea that I don't know how much alcohol it would take for a Skrull to basically get drunk. I don't know.
I did find myself wondering if they could like shapeshift their internal organs to process it better somehow, or like section it off or get rid of it somehow without actually absorbing it into their bloodstreams.
Yeah, especially, you're talking about the distinguished competition at that point. Superman can't ever get drunk.
Yeah, but for him, that's basically a function of his healing, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Kind of like Wolverine doesn't really get drunk.
He just takes a lot to really get him. He just
To
gets
feel
angry.
anything. Or the Flash on the CW show, there were a couple times they reference how he can't get drunk. Cisco made him some sort of super 10,000 proof thing
Yeah.
or whatever, and he felt it for like a minute.
Yeah, exactly. So as the convoy heads out, it is suddenly attacked by the air from the Skrulls and from the air and the ground. And Ritson's car takes a direct hit, but he's still alive. And the Skrulls are purposely speaking Russian out loud so that the Americans, Secret Service, and the army that comes up in for backup say the Russians are attacking them at that point. And Brock saying metabolism, not healing.
You know what?
He's not wrong.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Now this was interesting just because, call it the MCU at that point, but everything we've ever seen about the President of the United States traveling at that point, wherever they're going, the airspace must be clear. Now, I thought it was pretty cool. They had like mobile SAM sites following them around just on the off chance, but typically they're traveling in not necessarily
what country were they in at this time?
Thought they were in the United Kingdom.
Okay, so that's what I thought too. In which case, you would expect that the UK would enforce a no-fly zone around where the president, whatever his route is, that they would have that.
Yeah, so that kind of rang to me as like, not sure, but I thought the mobile SAM sites were pretty cool.
There could be high-ranking officials in this who are Skrulls who. I mean, in this kind of show,
Scrody could have done some things at that point,
right? And Scrody's got friends, I'm sure, and like in this kind of show, those kind of questions are easily waved off. Well, they probably have a Skrull in place because they've already told us they have lots of Skrulls in place.
Yeah, so they have Skrulls in place. Scrody could have done something as the order saying, we're not going to worry about it, this, that, and the other. So, but yeah, so with, the attacks happening, Fury and Tails roll up on it as they see them getting attacked. During this time, Gravik shows off his other new powers, his Groot, Mr. Fantastic powers, on one of the poor Secret Service agents.
Yeah, and that's a shot that was in the trailer that I've been waiting for also. I was a little surprised it was in this week's episode. I just had envisioned that was later in the show in my head, but that does make me wonder what they're going to do otherwise. But really, that was coolness-wise, that was the coolest shot of this entire thing, not counting Talos himself when he was changing back to a Skrull, because I did like how that looked.
Yeah, no, it looked very good. And so when... they roll up on Fury and Talos come over there, and they head to the president's car. And basically, Talos, he says, Fury yelling at him, saying, "Get him out!" He says, "I'll take care of it." And he's just using his Skrull, whatever extra Skrull strength he has, trying to break through the bulletproof, window at that point. And it's not just a bulletproof. I mean, it's a significant type of specific glass that's just not just it's huge. So the fact that he's trying to break through with just his bare hands, and then he takes a bullet, and like you said, he starts trying to hold his form together, his human disguise together, and it's not happening. And so you get one of the soldiers saying he's an alien, he's trying to kill the president. And that's when Fury says, "No, he's with me. He's trying to save the president." And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah, he just rolled with it. And I know I saw some debate over was that human actually Gravik at that moment.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, because I think he would have just fired again if he was. He just would have fired again. I don't think that he gained anything. It's like, because he didn't fire again, more likely he's a human who knew who Nick Fury was and believed him.
Exactly. So, Talos is trying to use whatever strength he's got left to break through the window, and with that, he's able to do it. Fury's able to grab POTUS and get him out of there, and Talos is, being carried apparently by another soldier. And when Fury puts the president down in the car, he sees it, and he tells the soldier, "Put him down now." And, I just thought at that moment, what the Joker said, a poor choice of words. And he shoots the soldier and to be revealed as Gravik, and shows the extremis abilities, healing him. He fires him a bunch of other times, heals from that, and he then takes a knife and stabs Talos, and looks like Talos is down for the count. And Fury looks pretty, obviously very distraught, but he has to make a decision: save the president or grab basically his dead friend. He chooses the mission, gets the president out of there at that point, leaving Talos there at that point. So Fury, I get he needed to make that choice, but now he's left not just his friend, an alien being in the government's hands.
Before this show started,
Oh yeah, by the way, Scrody's just chilling in the car.
Oh yeah, Scrody was comfortable as all could be. Before this show started, you threw out a theory that President Riston could be a Skrull, found out, removed from office, and that gives us President Ross in Captain America: Brave New World. Wondering where you're at with that theory right now. Does this prove to you that he's not a Skrull? You think that's still in play, and they're just double agent, long con type things? Or I'm just curious where what you're thinking right now along those fronts.
If he is not a Skrull, then how I see this going down with the rise of Thunderbolt Ross, because we don't know who really is the vice president at this time. It could be Ross, we don't know. But I feel that if the rise of Ross, if Ritson's not revealed to be a Skrull, I could easily see Ross saying, when Scrody is revealed to be a Skrull, which probably by the end of this, it may be known to the world, saying, wait a minute, if it's not Scrody, there are going to be other Skrulls to be revealed in the U.S. government. And he had Skrulls working in the U.S. government. He didn't know. He's putting us at risk. Elect me. We'll root them all out. That could be the other way of the rise of Thunderbolt
he could go
Ross.
that way. He could be impeached. He could be injured and retired. They could declare him not fit to serve. And what is that, 25th Amendment? There are ways to remove him without him being a Skrull. To me, it made me think, okay, well, he's less likely to be a Skrull now, though it's still possible. But there are other ways to remove him from office in time for Brave New World.
Oh, yes, very much so. But yeah, so Fury drives off, and that's where the episode ends.
Still no credit scenes.
No credit scenes. The question is, it's not always a guarantee sometimes,
So let's ask the question. Is Talos dead?
I think he is. I've been saying it. I know we got that or fact or fiction that Talos is going to be in the Marvels from last week. I was a fiction then. I'm still a fiction now. I think Talos is done.
I hope that he's still alive. And I hope that he's just now captured by Gravik with a chance to rescue him, because I really like the character. And I really, really enjoy the conversations that he has with Fury, or at least that he had in the first few episodes. But, I feel like there's a 50-50 shot, right? Like, as far as we know, Hill is still dead. Gaia died and came back the next episode. So flip a coin, I guess, based on the odds of what they're doing so far in the show.
Yes, S-Pub saying declare him not fit to serve, just like how Harrison Ford was almost declared in Air Force One. Yeah, get off my plane at that point.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah. Next week is the penultimate episode, and typically the MCU shows have had a very strong penultimate episode. We'll kind of see if that tradition continues. I know you won't be here, Brent. Any kind of predictions you want to lay out for the penultimate episode?
I'm gonna say they repeat and Talos lives. Second fake out in a row, which if that happens, people are not going to like it. They're catch-22 right now because they don't like the killing at the end of the episodes, but they're not going to like 2 fake outs in a row like that.
I'm maybe count me amongst those at that point, just because it just says, does death really matter? At that point, I mean, again, we have to have something kind of be, Maria Hill. Okay, that was one. It just didn't ring true to a lot of people, and then Talos. We've seen a lot of character growth, and we've seen a lot of looking at the, growth of Talos as a character. I really liked him in Captain Marvel. He's shown a very sympathetic character. This would be the way to go out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, doing something heroic, trying to save the president, and unfortunately he didn't get to truly reconcile with his daughter, and it feels like they had a potential there, the opportunity, and they ran out of time.
Yep. So, but all right, we will go again. We will go live next Wednesday for the penultimate episode of Secret Invasion, and so that'll be episode 5. So we're going to take our next ad break before we get into the news. So as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, Brent. You know, it was one of those things where we didn't know if we could believe it. We didn't know if it would be true. But Deadpool 3 being filmed, and we've heard rumors of that, we would see Hugh Jackman in costume. The rumors was the yellow and blue at that point. And Ryan Reynolds dropped a doozy on us earlier this week. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hugh Jackman in the yellow and blue costume from the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont era that was introduced there and even more made famous in the animated series. We don't see him in the mask yet. We don't know if he's going to be in a mask at that point, but my goodness.
Well, he posted a picture of the maskness to Deadpool's mask long time ago.
Very long time ago.
Is that just teasing you? Like, yeah, the movie's happening, or are they teasing something there? I don't know. I'm at work when this comes out, and a coworker, not David, a different coworker, showed it to me and said, "Hey, did you see this?" And I glanced at it, and the first thing I said was, "Is this real?" Because you just assume it's Photoshop or whatever. He showed me it was real, and I'm like, well, there were strong rumors that it was going to happen. I'm glad it finally did, and I'm partial. I've said this before to the yellow costume. I feel for the people that wanted the brown costume or the X-Force costume, and if they wanted to allude to those, I'd be thrilled. But I'm obviously very, very excited to see this. I don't care that he has sleeves. A lot of people seem really up in arms that they can't see Wolverine's arms. I'm like, get over it, people. I don't know if he has sleeves just because that's the costume they wanted to go with. I don't know if he has sleeves as a way to protect him because he's a skin cancer survivor. I really don't care. Like, yes, protect him. I don't care that he has sleeves. That is a comic book costume. That's not, black leather suit. That's not even the sort of leather suit, sort of uniform type thing you wore in like Days of Future Past. Like, that is a comic book costume. Finally, as Julio says, it took 23 years. I'm so glad that they did this. They're bringing him back. They're doing this. I'll tell you, though, this is one thing that whoever becomes the future MCU Wolverine had going for them was that Hugh Jackman never wore the costume. And no, he just did that. I mean, there's a reason this man is going to be Wolverine forever, and this just furthers that legacy.
Yeah, I am not like has to be sleeveless at that point because, and I know Travis listened to this since he produces this for us after we conclude at that point, but you may remember, memory sticking, in Logan, we saw X-23, Laura Kinney, reading one of like that universe's X-Men comic, and Wolverine was in it. Mm-hmm. Wolverine was suited up. I really want to say that he was also in sleeves in that one.
And he kind of made a comment that it was... What I'm trying to remember what he said, like just like they were fiction, their stories that weren't real.
Some of it happened, but not like this. But I want to say that how he was portrayed in that particular comic she was reading had sleeves. So if someone knows it, S-Bubs in the chat, any of them, let us know if that's true. But my mind is kind of going that way. So if it is, it's really making it accurate in the sense. But let me kind of pull this out because there's certain things on this one I don't want to put out there just in case, because there is a small little spoiler on the set but I want to show a couple of the set shots of Mr. Jackman kind of just doing what Hugh Jackman does best in this costume. Here we go. Where is it?
All right, while you pull that up, S-Bub said that I saw someone say this is a good in-between costume, like this is still a bit armored, while whoever is the next Wolverine can get the full yellow spandex suit. You know what? I mean, I guess it's technically right, but I disagree with the overall concept because this is exactly how they would adapt a superhero costume. Like, look at Captain America's costume, right? This is exactly how they would adapt it. And that set photo, which for the record I had not seen, I've seen others, but not that one. It looks so good.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. There's one I want to see when he pops the claws, because that's been everyone's kind of thing. Always, let's see him pop the claws out. And let me see if I can find that. Hugh Jackman there. Oh, here we go. There we go. We got claws popping out.
Oh, just wonderful. Just look at it. So good.
So I'm beside myself at that point. I love the suit. It could have been the shirt I'm wearing, the brown and tan. It could have been the yellow and blue. Like, nothing says, again, I had the Factor Fiction saying that we would see variants of also Wolverine 2. Nothing says we won't get other costumes either in other variants of Wolverine. That's what I'm still holding on to at that point. But
while we're talking the costumes, can I ask what you think about Deadpool's, which is the same costume, just a brighter shade of red?
Yeah. I like it. I mean, it's Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool hasn't had too many variants. I mean, outside of the X-Force, dark black and gray one.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, yeah, I agree. The brighter shade, it's a lateral shift to me. His costume to me was perfection. This is no better. It's no worse. I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. So I'm just very excited about this. We get him now. What is your feeling on mask or no mask? How will you ride if there is no mask?
I mean, I think we'll get at least one scene with it. I do. I don't think they're going to go that far and not finish the job. But I also don't think that they're going to keep it on him that much.
Yeah.
Superhero movies today, including Marvel, like Deadpool aside, Ryan Reynolds aside, the mask comes off every chance they get because you got to show your star. The mask comes off. So, in fact, that's something to admire what Ryan Reynolds does because he is very willing to keep that mask on.
Mm-hmm. Brock saying,
of course, in his case, he doesn't have to put all the face makeup on if he has the mask on, but still.
Yeah, Brock saying, notice the hair is comic accurate again, too. Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank goodness for that.
None
of that Logan hair, that fake hair. I want the real Wolverine hair.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think we're going to get him in the mask at that point. It'll be, I'm Team Wide Eyes. We're going to get the Wide Eyes at that point.
I hope so, because I'm still Team Wide Eyes for Batman. I don't care. You can still emote. You can still do things. Look at like Andrew Garfield in the Spider-Man mask. If he can emote with that whole thing, they can emote with and still having half their face visible. Exactly. Give me the wide eyes, please. Just like Deadpool has. Give me the wide eyes.
But yeah, it was such a cool, nice surprise. It dominated the early part of this week. It continued to dominate, even though certain trailers dropped at that point. Everyone said, "Oh my God, these set photos are amazing." But as we know, SAG-AFTRA has now officially gone on strike, so all productions have stopped on Deadpool 3 amongst everything else. So we do not have word that they are finished, and they were wrapping up in Canada, but I don't think they finished at that point. They were trying to get as much as they could done before the looming strike. But ladies and gentlemen, as Brent and I said, with the Writers Guild strike, they're still on strike. We're going to say with SAG-AFTRA, pay them.
Just pay them. Don't do that garbage about that they were trying to do for the background extras to pay for one day's work and let them get a digital scan that they can use forever. No, that is absolute crap. No, just pay them properly.
And studio heads that say that they're pretty tone deaf in some of their comments they've been making at that point.
Looking at you, supposed to be good, Bob.
We're not talking about your Ben Afflecks, your Matt Damons, your Scarlett Johanssons, we're talking about the livelihoods of our lesser actors that you've never seen, that this is between health insurance and living on the street.
We had someone at work today, again, this isn't David who said this, who said, it doesn't matter, these people are all millionaires anyway. I'm like, no, like your Ben Afflecks are millionaires. Your Matt Damons, people like that are millionaires. Not all the extras in the background. Mm-hmm. There are way more people in the Screen Actors Guild whom you've never heard of than you see leading these movies.
Yeah. Chris Evans in the chat caught the Deadpool 3 talk. They were aiming to wrap in September. So obviously that is now going to be pushed off.
Yep, that's going back.
So, but all right, the next bit of news that was going to be our first news topic that broke at the end of last week. Coming exclusive from the Hollywood Reporter, Jennifer Garner is again picking up Elektra's size once again. After a 20-year absence from the character, she is coming back to portray Elektra In Deadpool 3, multiple sources have told The Hollywood Reporter. Marvel Studios production that was at the time currently shooting. Sean Levy is in the director's seat at that point, and he actually has a lot of history recently with Jennifer Garner. She was in the Adam Project at that
which
point.
you should absolutely watch if
Yes.
you haven't seen. It was really well done.
Yes, I highly recommend it as well. It's a nice, very surprisingly well done. Like, just what do you think? Oh, it kind of looks standard. No, it's really tugs at your heart.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous. Ryan Reynolds is a time traveler who goes back and has to work with his younger self to get back home, right? Like, it is much. There is much more to it than that. Highly recommended.
Yeah, Garner first played Elektra in Daredevil 2003 opposite Ben Affleck. While the film was not a hit, it did spawn a spinoff. Garner doing a solo act for Elektra 2 years later. That too was even less of a box office success.
Well, that movie was terrible. Call it what it is. Keep in mind, I really enjoyed the Daredevil movie, which that was pretty much the day that I said I need to see him and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man occupy the same space at the same time. But the Elektra movie, she's basically on record as saying she was contractually obligated, so she fulfilled her obligations. And no, it wasn't a good movie. I won't claim it was. It was terrible.
Yeah, I've only gotten halfway through it. Barely halfway through it, and so I've never seen the full thing.
Well, maybe we should watch it now. Maybe
I'm probably thinking we're gonna have to.
I know. I was thinking about that. I committed to a different thing that we were going to watch. I'm like, man, we may have to put this one into. I may not have a choice. Darn it.
Yeah. So the question is, why would she want to return more than 15 years later? And it's likely has to do with the plot of Deadpool 3 and the rumors also about we've got Elektra. A lot of rumors swirling around that we're going to get a Devil in Hell's Kitchen returning as well.
I know. And those rumors were going Fast and Furious style prior to the Elektra news drop from the Hollywood Reporter. So to me, the Elektra news just gives credibility to the Daredevil one. And just to be clear, while yes, I like the Daredevil TV show more, I absolutely think it's the better interpretation of the movie. I still enjoy the movie. I still like the movie. And I think it'd be awesome if Ben Affleck came back and suited up in the Daredevil suit again to do that.
That'd be fighting words if Taylor listens to Marvel Alliance. Chris Evans saying, I'm not saying much, but I'd say Elektra is at least better than Ghost Rider.
that's
I don't know if I agree with that. I really don't know. I think I might have to disagree with you on that, Chris, on that one. But to each their own. They're both not great movies. But
it's not a competition you want to win. Again,
no, it's
like
not.
we said earlier.
But yeah, I think one of the things besides having a good working relationship with Sean Levy, I think that we're getting Ben Affleck back in as our Daredevil for this movie. I am even more confident now.
Now, I absolutely have questions about what the plot of this movie is going to be. Obviously, everybody, myself
a multiversal road trip, baby.
Has basically said Daredevil kills the Fox Marvel universe. I'm into that. I think it'd be fun. Don't get me wrong. But is that the plot? And you know what? If that's all it is, fine. I'm game. I'm there for it. I love Deadpool. Those movies are a treasure and should be treated as such. The more ridiculous this sounds, the better. So yes, please bring back Daredevil and Elektra and whoever else for the other rumors, because there's rumors of other Fox Marvel characters as well. So just bring them all back.
Yeah, Brent's hinting around a rule he's going to break at that point. Now that we'll get towards the end of the year, and it'll definitely be. Oh, he's already put money to it too. So
we might as well not. We don't have to talk around it. We can just say what it is. Basically, prior to Deadpool 3, and looking like our schedule wise, it'll be the end of this year, this calendar year probably. We will watch for Patreon the Daredevil director's cut. I have never actually seen it. In case you don't know, or you never listen to Fans Without Borders while that show is still active. I don't like director's cuts. We don't need to go into it. It's not my thing. I'm not a big fan of them. And apparently Elektra has one as well. I did not realize this. I believe it was Clay who first brought that to my attention.
Good Lord.
So Daredevil has the director's cut. Elektra has the director's cut. I'm committing to Daredevil. We'll talk about Elektra.
Yeah, so we will, our commitment for Patreon is we will wrap up the Infinity Saga, and Brent and I are probably going to head into the Fox era of the Marvel movies, more than likely starting with Daredevil, the director's cut at that point. So if at December, get ready for December, because once we wrap up with Endgame in November, we begin the Fox, and that means also we're going to get into Sony as well. We're going to do the X-Men, we're going to do Daredevil, we're going to do Spider-Man from the Sony side. We're gonna dive into some of that stuff because we already did phase 4, so we're not gonna re-review that.
With the exception of Black Widow, we already did it,
Yeah.
and we did that because it's chronological. But we're gonna work on what order we're gonna go in, because we may not go strictly a specific order. But I mean, obviously, because Daredevil's not first, but I'm sure we'll touch on Daredevil, and I feel like at some point we have to touch on some more X-Men prior to Deadpool coming out. So. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So, but all right. So I believe our final news story for the evening is something that you and I have been hoping for. It's still in the rumor mill, but Jeffrey Wright will return as the Watcher in live action this year. This is coming as an exclusive from the Cosmic Circus. They say that their sources are very confident at that point. They're saying Jeffrey Wright will return as a Watcher in a Marvel Studios project releasing this year in live action. Not What If, because we still don't have a firm date if What If season 2 is actually going to come out this year. He famously gave the voice to Uatu in the What If series. At that point, I love his voice. I think it captures what I would think Uatu would sound like. We have seen the Watchers in the MCU. We have seen them before. This would not be, but this would be the first time we see Jeffrey Wright portraying Uatu in live action, which, I think that this would be true. So the question is S-Bub's already getting to me with that, Loki or the Marvels? Officially, we know that's left for this year.
I think it is between those two. It is more likely to be Loki. I mean, to be clear, Echo's still out there also, but I don't think it's Echo. I don't think it's
I take it back. You're right. Echo, yeah. So you did choose the right to quote unquote multiversal / cosmic projects.
That said, there is one other Marvel project, and besides Echo, it's even less likely with Craven. I just want to put the name out there, but no, really, is
Uatu Craven more Craven?
Nobody is. I would put it on Loki. Realistically, I would put it on Loki. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it could be, but one of my big things for this year of predictions at that point is that we will be seeing incursions occur, and I believe it's going to happen in the Marvels. Uatu could be there.
That would be Watcher caliber. And I was telling you before we started, it's driving me nuts because I know at one point my list of Fact or Fictions included seeing Jeffrey Wright in live action.
Yeah.
And I don't have it in any of my notes of past ones I've done or my bank of ideas I've come up with for the future. So either we did it and I just didn't save it, or it came up naturally in conversation, and so I just cleared it out. But that is an idea I've been hoping for a while. I can't say predicting. I mean, so many people, it seems obvious, right? But hoping for a while, because his voice, you're right, is so great as the Watcher.
It's like Morgan Freeman level.
And frankly, I want to see how they do it in live action.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what he'd look like.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited about it. Cosmic Circus, they've definitely gotten their high level scoop. So definitely I'd put them kind of on the high C, if not B- level at this point for them. So definitely worth this saying that it's not even close to being a giant freaking robot at that point. They have more than earned their big scoops at that point since Leslie launched it in the last year. So Amara Daniels saying in the chat, he'll be in Craven for sure. Don't you want to know why they call me the Watcher?
I guess he's a peeping Tom, but okay.
Phil saying would love to see him as the live action Watcher. Yes, so it'd be a lot of fun. So all right, Absolutely. So that is all the news that we got for this week. Again, a lot of fun stuff. So let's take our final ad break for the evening. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. So You put the Spidey signal out. Looks like we got a number of questions this week, so hit me with them, Brent.
Yeah, first up from Chris Evans, 3 questions from him. 1, how awesome is the Wolverine suit? Well, we did talk about that, and it is pretty freaking fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yep, awesome, amazing.
Number 2, do y'all think Deadpool 3 will be the end of the multiverse films?
No.
I wish I'd clarified this question with him, because
Yeah.
now my initial reaction was no, because like it's the multiverse saga, like we have Secret, like we know there's other films about the but now I'm suddenly wondering, does he mean films set not in the MCU prime timeline? So I do think that's possible, but it's definitely not the end of the multiverse being touched on.
Yeah, I think once we wrap up with Secret Wars at that point, I think they're going to put the multiverse to kind of bed for a little bit before they kind of revisit it again, but it will not be the final one.
His third and final question, no, really, how beautiful is that Wolverine suit? And yes, it is. It is really, really cool to see him in that suit.
You know what? I just want to say this. I'll channel the Paul Rudd with the hot ones at that one. Look at us. Look at us.
Look at us.
Look at us. You think we could have got here? Nope, not me. Not me. Didn't think it. Nope. But I'm so happy. So happy. Even Scroty's happy.
All right, all right. From Mr. Hines, does Brent have a contract at Marvel Studios? The most awesome news. Contact. I'm sorry. The most awesome news always drops a week before or the week after he goes on a holiday. I'm not at liberty to. I have an NDA. That's all I'll say. I have an NDA.
I also will plead the fifth. Sources may or may not. I have contact with.
No,
so
yeah, you just plead the fifth. That's right. Yeah. Jim Scruggs, what do you hope?
Oh no, but you did want to say something. Advice for DC Alliance, though.
Oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely, I forgot about that. Hines likes to complain that all the big DC news happens right after they record DC Alliance. Hines, just push it back a day. Just move DC Alliance to Tuesday nights, and then you'll get so much more of that big news. Because like the Blue Beetle trailer dropped, I believe, after they had already recorded, and so which was a really cool trailer.
And all the lovely new castings of Superman.
All the Superman castings. That's right. Our new guy Garner and the others. So it's just. Hines, you and Joe just need to record a different day. I'm just putting that out there. Thank you. I forgot that I told you I wanted to mention that.
Yep. What do we got next?
All right, from Jim Scruggs, what do you hope is done differently with the Spider-Man game sequels? Differently just being something that you didn't like in the first 2 Spider-Man games, Spider-Man or Miles Morales, minus the handling of the Daily Bugle headlines.
Mine is the Mary Jane Watson sneaking around sequences.
Co-sign that. That's the first thing that I thought about.
I'm not saying I don't need Mary Jane Watson in it. I just think that just seemed just really kind of silly and throwaway to use her character. You can use her character much differently, but you don't need it like that.
I love the take on the character that they did with her. I love the take on the character. I'm going to say what it is. It's like, I wish I could, whenever I replay the game, I wish I could skip those missions. So those are absolutely what I would want to do away with. I know, I'm sure some people are thinking, I'm forgetting her name. Is it Skee Ball? No. I don't know, the girl at the end in the DLC who is super annoying. Is it Skee Ball? I don't remember now.
I don't know. Maybe
whatever. I'm sure people know who I'm talking about. I'm sure some people are thinking about her. No, I was fine with her missions. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Screwball. It's Screwball, I think. But regardless, whatever. No, it's the Mary Jane mission. They're just boring. Call it what it is. Omari Daniels, do you ever wish that there had been more connectivity between Marvel TV and film divisions prior to the Disney Plus shows?
I'll say on that one, I didn't like how they said they were connected, and all we ever really got was the incident in New York, or things that and the other, or the random the random appearances of MCU characters post the big summer movie. At that point, it just seemed it seemed very shoehorned in, and just didn't work out.
So this question came in before this Bob Iger quote going around that said there had not been in the TV, Marvel had not been in the TV business at any significant level prior to the Disney Plus show. It's like, ooh, ouch. Even Clark Gregg shared that one and just said, bro. But it's hard because in the early seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the later seasons were better, but in the early, like I absolutely believe that. But the earlier seasons, they were really making that effort to connect. It's all connected,
No, they
huge big
tried.
deal. And they brought Fury in, they brought Lady Sif in. I feel like there was someone. Oh, Maria Hill, that's the other one that I was forgetting. Maria Hill makes an appearance or two. They did that, and then the Netflix stuff comes out, and it's all connected. It's all the same. I remember like telling my brother-in-law, like, yeah, these are all part of the same world. And then later, it's like eventually I came to the conclusion: were they all part of the same world? Yes. I absolutely wish there had been more connectivity between those shows. And I mean, I eventually I became president of the fan club, saying they're not all connected. They're not part of the MCU proper. At some point, they forked over, and they're not. And Omari Daniel mentions Agent Carter being a continuation of the first Avenger. Absolutely, it certainly was. And you notice that's the one project that ever got called out directly in the movies, because they had Jarvis in Avengers Endgame. And so, like, that's the one project that they did. And yes, I know, like, technically the helicarrier that Fury has at the end of Age of Ultron comes from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that season. But you don't need to know that at all. Like, it doesn't matter. There's no reference for it. It's completely bonus information, if you even want to call it that. And you know what? They did kind of try to do some stuff. I don't remember what show it was in, but like, I want to say it was in an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was like a news ticker in the background that referenced like a gang war or something that would have tied with events of either the Punisher series or events in the Daredevil series. There was the Cloak and Dagger show and the Runaways, and they had a direct crossover, and there was a reference in Cloak and Dagger to someone that basically would have been referencing Misty Knight and Luke Cage. And so it's like they sort of tried these little things, but I feel like they always gave this excuse of it's too hard to schedule things out that far in advance. And there is probably some truth to that, but I think they absolutely could have made more of an effort. What I need a Star Wars person right now. Remind me what they call all the Star Wars stuff from before Disney buying them, that
Legends.
they let the Legends line or whatever. It was canon and now it's considered not. I kind of feel like effectively that's what happened with that stuff, with all the shows prior to WandaVision coming out. Now, they may choose to bring some of that stuff in, like Daredevil, like they brought in an awful lot of it that I'm going to need some definitive proof that it's not the same before I believe that. But I don't know. It's weird because there was that teaser for, or that Easter egg for Quake in.
Yeah, they call Legends now, and Phil's right. They call it
expanded universe. Okay.
Yeah.
There was the teaser. Thank you, Phil. There was the teaser for Quake, or not the teaser, the Easter egg of Quake in Spider-Verse. Like you see Daisy Johnson on the background of one of the screens, and it's like that's not the project where I thought they would have teased her at. I wish they had been more connected, but I'm not gonna trick myself into believing that. Even though that was their intent at the start, that's what they did. Their goal was to be connected, and I don't think they reached that goal. That said, they put out an awful lot of good Marvel television and Inhumans during that time, that when they stopped trying to connect so much, it just worked better. It really did.
Yeah. I love the later seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Absolutely. Yeah, and did you ever watch Runaways or Cloak and Dagger? Like,
no.
I enjoyed. I thought Runaways was the better of the two, but I enjoyed those for what they both were. Cloak and Dagger showed up in an episode of the Runaways. I want to say it was in its third and final season. They were fun shows. I would have been happy if they had continued on longer than they did. But and I disagree with Iger saying there was never any significant Marvel TV, because so many of those shows ran for 2, 3, or more seasons. And so, I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. had 7 seasons, I think. So I don't buy them to that. But no, Omari, I wish they were more connected.
Yeah, I love the Runaways comic by Brian K. Vaughan at that point. But when I saw them doing it and just saying like, I watched one episode of it and I was like, no, I'm gonna just stick with the comic and have that memory and not.
Oh, sure. No question. Which is the better interpretation there, and the overall better story, but. What they did with the Runaway show, I thought worked for what they were doing. And really, they were trying to make like Marvel TV for more of a young adult audience, right? Or teenage audience. Something like that and Cloak and Dagger, I feel, were truly targeted at those shows. Would I be happy if that's all there was for Marvel television? No, but I do believe there is room for a variety of different characters and stories and age groups that they can target. And Cloak and Dagger, I think, had 2 seasons, 3 for Runaway. And for those 5 seasons of television, I think it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for those lovely questions at that point. We really appreciate it. And now we're heading to fact or fiction. So let me pull up Travis's from last week and get your feelings on it. Number one, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine will be in his comic accurate suit in the first teaser for Deadpool 3. 80% said fact, 20% said fiction.
I think that's a fact. I think we can go ahead and say that one's fact.
Well, he's talking about the first teaser. We've seen it. In the
sure,
photos.
but this is the first marketing still. But they put it out there. Yes, I think that's a fact. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
The question is, will they show the mask? That's the real question.
My thing was fact. They're just going to show like a tease of the suit, but not him in full costume. So, but we'll see. Number two, Talos will be in the Marvels. 55% said fact, 45% said fiction.
I was listening to this last week, and I was like, "Fact, that's going to happen." And now, maybe not.
I was a fiction, and I'm still a fiction. Nothing changing that right now.
Sure.
And the last one, the Marvels opening weekend will be lower than 60 million. 34% said fact, 66% said fiction.
60 million. Yeah, that box office stuff is definitely down. Do you remember what the first Captain Marvel movie opened at?
I'd have to look that up unless you're probably quicker on it than I am.
Yeah, I'll try and look it up. But bottom line, lower than 60 million. That's the thing.
That's
I'm gonna say fiction on that. I do think they're gonna top that, but I don't think they're going to top the first one, which was $153 million. It opened to $153 million. Captain Marvel's first weekend. Captain Marvel's second weekend was $67 million. No, it's gonna top 60, but it's not hitting 150. No way.
Yeah. Now the question is, as I said this to Travis last week, said I could see this not getting up to 100 million the first weekend though.
I think that's reasonable. If the fact or fiction, if Travis had said 80 million, that would be a lot harder to decide. So I think it is probably more likely to come in sub 100. So the question will be, does it have a good hold, or does it drop? If it comes in sub 100 and still drops 60%, well, that's really not going to be good.
And remember, this is the final MCU movie until the following May.
Yeah. Which is what? Captain America: Brave New World?
Believe so.
Well, isn't Deadpool? Deadpool's slated before
You're
that.
right. So, yeah.
But that's they're going to change. Things are going to get delayed.
We'll switch projects around.
As of right now, Deadpool is prior to that, but it's also a different universe.
Yeah,
we're both right,
and we're both wrong. You never know. All right, Brent, it's your turn this week. What you got?
All right. First up, we will see Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield again before Secret Wars in at least one project from either Marvel or Sony, not counting Spider-Verse.
I'll say, if anything, it'll be Kang Dynasty, but it wouldn't be anything more than that. But I will still, I think it'll just be Secret Wars, so I'm going to go fiction.
I'm saying fact because I think they will pop up. I think they will pop up somewhere prior to Secret Wars.
What's your choice then?
The thing is, if they can get, I don't think Toby will. I really think my called shot would be Andrew and Venom 3. That would be my called shot. Like if you really wanted me to be specific, not for a super big prominent role, credit scene or something, but that would be my guess. But I fully expect Venom to show up in Secret Wars, and so I think that would be some. Basically, they'll tie in a little bit, and I think we will learn that it is basically the Amazing Universe.
That's Bob's dropping some interesting tea, saying apparently a new Marvel's trailer is coming out next week attached to the Haunted Mansion movie.
No, I saw a reference that a trailer was getting rated or something, so one would be coming soon. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize it was going to be that fast, but yeah, please bring it on. I'm ready. I love that last trailer, but I've now seen it in theaters many times because it's been before like everything I've went to, including last weekend. So I'm like, I am ready for a new trailer, but it was a great one.
Yeah. All right, number two.
By the end of the Thunderbolts, they may win their mission, but will not be accepted as heroes by the general public.
Oh no, I will. I will agree with that. They'll definitely not, and it'll prove the point that saying this is why we need a
The
standing
Avengers.
Avengers team.
Yep, we're pretty much in full agreement there. I'm going fact on that one as
But
well.
they will not be disbanded. I think the Thunderbolts will continue to exist, but it'll prove the fact that you need a standing Avengers team.
I agree with that. All right, final one. Victor Von Doom will appear in the Fantastic Four movie, but he won't become Doctor Doom until either the last few minutes or the credit scene, if at all.
I will say a partial fact, but it won't be a full fact. I think, yes, Victor Von Doom will be in the movie. I don't think you get Doctor Doom or anything like that until the sequel.
I think that is more likely, and that's why I'm ending it with if at all. But I'm talking 10 minutes left in the runtime of the movie at most before we actually see Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom, again, to be clear, the green suit,
no, I'll say fiction. No, I think you're just gonna get Victor. I think you're gonna keep away Doctor Doom until the sequel.
Then you're agreeing with me.
Okay, yes, then I'm agreeing. Okay,
So,
gotcha. All right,
it's fact. So
your
more time.
ending kind of confused me there.
Just to be clear, Victor Von Doom will appear in the FF movie, but he won't be Doctor Doom until the last few minutes of the movie or a credit scene, if at all.
That's not a fact or fiction.
I'm saying he's not going to be Doctor Doom in like the first act of the movie. He's not our main villain. He's not a major player. He's effectively teased at most.
Okay. All right.
I'll phrase it. I'll rewrite it to phrase it. He's only teased at most.
Okay. All right. I'll accept it in protest. So, all right. I will post those Sunday afternoon. Let your voices be heard. And speaking of Doctor Doom, I love a good transition, and Brent set me up very well for this.
That is why I did that one last.
Yes, let us begin with our new comic book club, reading issue number 1, Books of Doom. Brent, have you ever read Books of Doom?
I had not read this one.
Okay.
And I thought going into it, like the title, I thought I had, and then I'm reading this first issue. I'm like, no, this is reminding me of something else I did read recently, which would be a King story about King as a kid and growing up to become who he is. But it is not. I did not read this one before, and I really, really enjoyed this first issue. Excuse me. The way they told it, like he's telling it from his memory, but like he's like, I remember what it was like to be in my mom's womb. I'm like, you know what? You hooked me. That's interesting.
And again, this is Doctor Doom. You know, I would just say the epitome of an unreliable narrator, you know, in the sense of how much is he going to exaggerate and embellish his stories at that point too.
Right, exactly.
This is not a first read for me. However, this is only the second time I've reread it, and it has one of my favorite authors of comic books of all time, Ed Brubaker. I had completely forgotten that he had written this. So, I mean, already on that, but probably, and I love that originally when they came up with a Doom omnibus that came out last year at that point. Originally, this series was not in it. They added the series after some pushing from a few people in Marvel and outside of Marvel to say they have all the series that needs to be in the Doom omnibus. The Books of Doom need to be in there.
I mean, really, has Ed Brubaker ever written a bad comic? If he has, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's at the day one purchase for me. Anything Ed Brubaker does, especially if he's Sean Phillips at that point, yeah, you've got my money. I'll pre-order that in a second. But no, I really enjoyed this, especially just like I said, this is only the second time I've read it at that point. I like delving into this type of character because of all the characters in the Marvel Universe, Doom is one of those that you only really see and know about him when he comes into the Fantastic Four and everything, just the craziness that happens with his delving into the occult, the mysticism, the looking into it. And like, even in just one issue, we see exactly of him dealing with the occult, getting into science, striking out, like having like revenge is just very big. He does not tolerate anyone that wrongs him or his family, and will not hesitate to kill someone if he has to in order to get what he needs.
Can I just say, the page where his father is seemingly frozen to death.
Oh yeah, I thought he was dead.
But holding him to keep him warm, and little young Victor screaming for his dad to wake up is the creepiest thing I have seen
Yes.
in a long time. A long time.
Very much so. And especially the hints that talking about his mother basically dabbling in the dark arts and being taken over by a demon and doing that, saying, oh my gosh, I mean, she's basically kind of being the Scarlet Witch there.
Yes, very much reminded me of the Scarlet Witch. Absolutely.
And again, this is going to be a very tragic tale in the sense of like, Doom rising up from like poverty to eventually becoming the ruler of an entire country. I mean, that's just a fascinating story just to learn about.
Absolutely, completely.
But yeah, the creepiness of that splash page and just like him eventually saying, I'm going to study these books and I'm going to take the mysticism and turn it into science and use these weapons against those who are going to hurt my family.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed, such a weird thing to enjoy. I enjoyed it when he just straight up threatened all the other people from his village. Like, no, you are
Yeah,
not kicking us out, or I will come back and do to you what my mom did, and it will be even worse.
exactly. And they're like,
Such a demented
uh,
character.
yeah, we'll do that. And I love it how it ends like saying, are you with a random stranger saying, are you the famous Victor I've heard about? Said, yeah, I'm Victor Von Doom. He said, oh, you're a hard man to find. What can I do for you? And he's just like, oh, we're going to take you to America and you're going to be having a benefactor and you're going to be never wanting for anything. And I was like, oh, okay, there we go.
Yep, there it is.
If only we could all get so lucky get striking that lottery, right?
Indeed.
So, all right, yeah. So we will continue our reading of Books of Doom, issue 2, actually in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So we'll take a break since Brent won't be here next week. But yeah, so let us bring a close to volume 172. As we said, next week, reminder, we will be going live Wednesday, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. Travis Hines will be joining me for that one. Audio will still drop on Friday morning. And,
I hope that trailer does come out for his sake.
For his
Because
sake.
he seems to, like, he fills in for us a lot. It's greatly appreciated, but he does miss that kind of fun stuff, it seems.
Yeah, but we'll give him some at that point. I mean,
He does get the penultimate episode of Secret Invasion.
He does. So, but Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Brentak Prime, basically across any social media I'm on. At this point, it's too many to count or whatever. I did join Threads, but
I think we've got to count for you. I think it's 17 or 18.
17, yeah, it feels that way for sure. If you go to brentak.social, that has actual links to it, but all of them is Brentak Prime. If I'm on it, that's the name I've used. So just look there on your chosen platform.
Yes, and you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow me on Threads at Chris.Balga. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance at GUA Pod Network. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. Again, as always, want to thank our official sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Continue to feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. All our DMs are open. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever platform of choice may be. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent. So post-credits discussion tonight. This weekend, I had the opportunity to go to an exhibit at our local science museum. It's a traveling exhibit. It's on its final stop in the United States before it heads to Europe, simply entitled Marvel's Universe of Superheroes. So this exhibit has about over, as I pull it up at that point, like just thousands upon thousands of just, original artwork. The costumes from all the MCU projects. It is, just an amazing amount of just stuff. There are over 300 original artifacts, and over 890,000 visitors have attended this exhibit across the nation right now. And it is such a cool, very cool exhibit. I'm pulling up my Facebook that I just literally posted these photos to at that point. But as I kind of scroll kind of through just the, besides like the very first Marvel comics that they have, what I found fascinating about this, with,
I like that.
yeah, the original Human Torch
Yeah, that
issue.
Human Torch. That's awesome.
hmm Majority of this original artwork, Marvel Comics has done a horrible job in the sense of preserving this stuff. 95% of what you see here in this traveling exhibit, when it comes to the original artwork, is from private collectors.
Sure.
Very little to
Sure.
none is coming from Marvel Comics.
Which is an absolute shame.
Yeah. And they go over with Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, looking at the Fantastic Four. What was really cool was you had a place where you could sit with it with the blue-eyed, ever-loving Thing. In the background, it was kind of a moving thing. So you had Spidey at one point going through. You had Galactus destroying.
That's cool. Did you sit with it?
I did not sit with it at that point, but you see
look at
here
that.
the Black Panther, Okoye, Shuri costumes. Some of the original artwork from there. I did be with Black Panther there. And then we get into the Spider-Man section. I did post the Spider-Man.
I mean, how could you not?
So some more original artwork from the Spider-Man years. We get the Norman Osborn's Green Goblin mask, the Goblin Bomb, and Vulture's helmet.
It is cool to see the Goblin mask, but it's still not a good costume. I'm going to put that out there.
Here's Tom Holland's
the
from Homecoming.
Homecoming, yep. There's the Spider-Man exhibit in Kansas City right now that I haven't been to yet. It's here for a couple more months. We are going to go. We talked about it last week, and it just hasn't happened yet. But seeing all these pictures just makes me want to go to that even more.
Yeah, you learn about the Marvel method of what that means. So you get some Hulk artwork. You get the Thor costumes with Hela. Loki's. I'm trying to get to a really cool one. All right. This was probably one of the coolest things. You get the 3 armors from Iron Man. You got the Mark 1, the Mark 3, and then from Iron Man 3, one of probably my least favorite suit.
Your least favorite suit, but it is still pretty cool to see them there
yes,
in person.
Is.
Yes,
it's got too much gold. I just don't like it.
It is a lot of gold, you're right.
So, as I scroll through, you get
the suitcase one.
Yep, yeah. Suitcase and the arc reactor. You get Fury's costume, Captain America's costume. You got 2 shields, one from Endgame.
That's the Falcon costume from Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Is that Bucky next to him, it looks like?
Yep, and that's shield from... I'm trying to read it. Age of Ultron. That's the Age of Ultron shield. So it's interesting, like the Black Widow costume. It was always interesting, like what they focused on, what they had stuff for versus what they just had just kind of descriptions for. You got the WandaVision and Snow Vision.
Yep.
X-Men at that point, looking at all this lovely original artwork. You get the claws, you get the Cyclops visor. You had to click the button in order to get them to light up.
I was going to ask what the button was for.
Yep. Yeah. See what happens. Some more original artwork. I thought this was a very cool look. A little bit of Shang-Chi. Oh, yeah. This was the original sketch that John Romita Sr. did when developing The Punisher.
That's so awesome.
All right. So this was the cool section right here. The Daredevil section.
You're getting to what you texted me, aren't you?
Yep, I texted you. Yep, exactly. So the Daredevil section, the street level heroes, they have this wall that they had the outline of Daredevil with some individual original artwork, and then we come to Charlie Cox's suit, his glasses, his walking stick, the Nelson and Murdoch sign. I mean, I can't help but be smiling standing next to greatness.
I mean, it is greatness. I love that show.
Got a lot of memorabilia here. A little section of Jessica Jones. Here's Luke Cage's hoodie
With the bullet holes in
bullet
it.
holes
Yeah.
in it. Yep. Misty Knight, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, the first issue of Ghost Rider there. This was cool. The Supernatural. This is where you go into. This was the Doctor Strange section.
Hey, this thing was huge.
Mm-hmm. Miss Marvel. We got Captain Marvel.
In her Kree suit.
Yep, in her Kree suit. And we've got, Gamora and Star-Lord, the suits from the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the original depiction of what Star-Lord was going to look like in the comics.
Very different.
Cool.
Very
different. So some of the awesome mix, Drax's daggers,
the orb.
Orb for the power. I get a little thing of Groot. And speaking of the Watcher. And yeah, that's it.
That's really, really cool.
So, I mean, I spent probably, I'm a member of the local museums here, so I got to go in I could go up to an hour early. I got there about a half an hour early at that point, but it's here in Charlotte until September 4th. Again, it is its last stop in, I don't know where it was previously in the United States, but this is its last stop in the American tour, and then it's heading overseas. But yes, a really cool exhibit. So if you happen to be in the Charlotte area, it is around $40 a person to go in at that point. Being a member, I got it for half off. But again, if you are a Marvel fan,
worth it.
As you see, if you watch the live stuff, this is stuff just to be next to some of the stuff that I would never probably ever get a chance to do. It highly recommend it. A lot of fun. So. But all right, we will see you. I will see you next Wednesday. Brent will see you in 2 weeks. He gets to be a listener again next week for the penultimate episode of Secret Invasion. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.